Hello, my name is Dr. Jylana Sheats. I am very excited today to talk about science communication and storytelling. I'm interviewing Martina Efeyini. Martina is a trained toxicologist, science communicator, and STEM education advocate. She is passionate about intersecting STEM, communication, and education to make science accessible for the next generation of scientists. Martina is currently a Civic Science Fellow with a placement at Science News, which has been a reliable source of science for 100 years. As a fellow, she is leading a project to understand how to better engage with young people through science journalism, particularly those historically underrepresented in science, including people of color and those in low income, urban, and/or rural areas. Welcome, Martina.
Thank you, Jylana, for the nice introduction. And I'm so happy to talk to you about science communication and my journey.
Thank you. No, we're very excited to speak with you. And I have a number of questions that students from the Our Future is Science mentorship program have for you as they work on their capstone project. We want them to share it in ways that resonate with their community. So they have shared some questions with me, very thoughtful questions, and I am very excited to pose them to you today. But first, how can they make their project informative, entertaining, and engaging, but all at the same time without being overwhelming to their audience?
Yes, definitely how to make them engage. So even, right now we're talking and we're in different parts of the world, and I hope that you feel like this is engaging. I feel the energy, even though, we are not right here together. So that's like a way of, getting engagement is that you want to make sure when you think about your audience and everything, your audience needs and everything, taking time to do the research, taking time to give feedback like we talked before, but really less is more. I know we're in a digital age and we've been living in a pandemic for 2+ years now, and we're always on screens and we always feel with information overload. So when you're doing your presentations, no matter what medium you decide to use, just think about less is more. Like if you're doing a PowerPoint presentation, you don't need to have, a lot of things popping up, scrolling left to right, sound effects. Like it could sound really cool, but when you do it, it just might be too much sensory overload. And then also having like infographics. A lot of people love pictures and diagrams, and then you like, okay, you do this step, and then it goes here, and then it goes here. That kind of also helps paint a picture of your call to action. So your audience is like following the flow. When you think of like stories and storytelling, you have a beginning, you have a middle, you have an end, but in between, it's like different twists and turns that make you like, oh, what's going to happen next? So that is kind of like how you can make your presentation engaging. And then also when it comes to presenting, just, being yourself. If you're energetic, show that energy if that's you. If you are really, soft spoken, that's good too. Just be very natural in what feels organic to you. And then one of the most important things I would say about this is you want to make sure that you have things that are clear, that it's coming off correctly, that your audience knows what your project was for, what was the purpose of it, and what do you want them to do. Because like Jylana said, like you just want to make sure everything is clear and they have the call to action. It's like right there. They're not like saying, I don't know where the call of action is, but it's like, nope, here is the call of action.
Thank you for that. Let's see. So, you kind of mentioned this in your last response. And some of our students have really great personalities, and we definitely want those to come through in their presentations. And I do know that some students want to incorporate comedy. How can they maintain a comedic yet serious tone through storytelling without losing focus?
Yes, that's another good question. So kind of like what I said before, you want to make sure you're doing what is natural to you. If you're a naturally funny person, like you in a group of friends, your teachers, your family say, oh my goodness, this person is so funny, then you probably are a funny person. But if it's something that's not natural to you and you like, trying to be funny, I would suggest you might not want to try that. And then just like, you can record yourself on a video and then play it back and then share it with others and see like their responses. And then also, if you want to introduce humor, there's so many ways to do that. For example, I wouldn't know if you would call this person funny, but I'm pretty sure all of you know Raven, a science maven, where she produces a lot of TikTok content, and it's about science and it's fun and it has pop culture and everything, where we take her seriously because first we know she is a scientist, so that checks out. But then she also uses the things that she likes. She likes fashion, so she made a fashion STEM line, and she likes science communication, and she makes like hip hop and rap songs about science and like wipe me down, wash your hands, like all of that stuff. So that's kind of like adding humor, but it feels natural to her. So when you think about your humor, just think about what feels natural to me. And then if you're still not sure, talk to others around you and say, hey, what do you think about this?
And I think something to stress even more is that it can be comedic, but it still needs to be grounded, in evidence. You want to make sure not to contribute to all of the, misinformation, that's going out there. And then you made another point that I want to comment on, and it was, basically just doing like a pilot test, doing your presentation in front of others, or really you said do like a video and sending it to others to kind of look at. But you can also do that for just like a regular presentation, so before you go out, put it out into the world, get feedback and stuff like that from others. That's always a good idea. All right. So along those same lines, but the opposite type of issue, how can students make, I guess like dry facts more interesting to the audience?
Yeah, so that's definitely something that's super important with the dry facts, because like Jylana said, with adding humor, it still has to have evidence, and you want to make sure it's science peer-reviewed information, that you are getting your website from legitimate websites like Science News and Science is for Students or PubMed, that you've really taken that time. And then also when you showing these dry facts, you want to like really make sure that if you put like a statistic that it actually makes sense. Why are you putting it there? Is this something that is very important for your research project? And then like I mentioned earlier about having like infographics. Infographics are a great way that you can have like numbers. For example, if you might say 80% of people, blah, 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 in this neighborhood, you can have a nice pie chart, or you can have a nice graph, or say if we recycle, if everybody recycles, this is like the equivalent to a baseball field or something. So it's like creating some type of visual where the data seems more engaging. But to be honest, sometimes the dry facts will be the dry facts. And it's okay, because you just want to have evidence. You would just want to have accurate information. And that's the goal, because you want to make sure you're not dancing around the dry facts, because your audience can tell. And you want to make sure that they are seeing that they can trust your evidence that you've been working on for your project. And then lastly, another thing you could do is if you want to use like multimedia, like videos, you can do that to present the dry information in a more engaging way.
Thanks. And just to add to that, sometimes the dry facts are so powerful and shocking that you don't have to do anything. The words on the screen or the numbers are just so like dramatic that you're pretty much good, okay? And so then we have one final question. What is the best way to deliver a project directly to the intended audience? For example, the student who asked this question was interested in delivering their project to tenants. And they had an idea of showing images, resources, and people that they could contact to support the tenants. So you can kind of build off that example or just speak generally about connecting and, tenants or connecting, what was the question? I'm sorry. Oh, delivering a project directly to the intended audience.
Okay, so I can start by like the example of with the tenants. So imagine like tenants is in some type of neighborhood. It could be housing, it could be an apartment, etc. So what I would do is, of course, if you're a minor, with your parents' permission, and like see about going into your community. Like if they have a community town hall, or is like context that you can say, hey, I'm working on this project, and I would like to, talk about what I'm doing, and I want to like put it on a bulletin board, or if can I share it on your social media page, and then also what you do would depend on the audience very specifically. For example, if your tenants are not on social media, that would really make sense to post it on social media. But if they more so go to different community centers or different places in your neighborhood, that would make sense to like put it there. So you really just want to know your audience and what makes sense. And so the next part of the question is showing images, resources, and people. Is that good? Yes, yes, and yes. I think, always having images and resources, and that just ties into the call of action. You just want to make sure you have as much information as possible, but of course not overwhelming people with information. Just making sure that the information that you are sharing is the information that they actually need. And then I have another part to this question. If you are maybe not talking to tenants, for example, if your project is focused on you want to, your audience is younger people, like your peers, talk to your peers, talk to the people that you're trying to reach and say, hey, do you think this delivery makes sense? Do you think if I do, a podcast, how would I disseminate the information? If I do a flyer, how would I, disseminate the information? Just really just get information and then go from there. But really the key is knowing your audience.
Yeah. And so thank you, Martina. And what she's described is literally what we do when we think about dissemination of, research findings, or when we are, designing a program or really evaluating a program and want to, disseminate evaluation results. The community or, our audience is involved the entire time so that we can get a sense of the best ways to share these findings and who to share the findings with. They're involved in the entire process from the beginning of the project all the way to the end. So the things that you are learning now are things that you could be using in a future career, a range of careers, not even just the things that I'm talking about, but I'm literally teaching students in med school about these things right now. So it's very exciting to be sharing this information with you and to have Martina here, a science communicator extraordinaire and civic science fellow, to really just share her experience and expertise with Our Future is Science. And on behalf of the students and the Our Future is Science team, we cannot thank you enough for the valuable information that you have shared today. I do know that you have more information and opportunities to share with our students, but I'll just pass it over to you.
Yes, thank you, Jylana. I really appreciate the invitation to talk to your students about my work and how it can help them with their projects. So as Jylana mentioned, I'm a Science News Civic Science Fellow, and my project focuses on how to use science journalism to engage younger audiences. So we just all talked about, audiences, research, and knowing your audiences. And to me, like the younger audiences are the teenagers from 13 to 17 years old. And if you're interested, I invite you all to see about being in a focus group. And I hope that you'll be interested. And thank you so much.
We do hope that you participate. It will be a very exciting opportunity, and your voice will be heard and used for good, and ensure that others like you, will be able to access science news. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Martina.